For some time now, the FGC has had a spotlight on it, and a spotlight on it for all of the wrong reasons. Now, if you guys remember back in 2020, there were a lot of Smash players that had got outed for either doing things that were inappropriate with children or just straight up abusing people. There were so many things that came out, and obviously we are fortunate enough to have somebody in our scene like Technicals and other people that wanted to expose these things and bring them into the light essentially. But even though there were a string of players that were exposed for wrongdoing, do you think any of that has actually stopped? The answer is no, and the reason why it hasn't stopped is that a lot of these people are being protected. There's a lot of favoritism going on right now, and there's a lot of picking and choosing and not treating people with fairness, which is funny because that's something they like to talk about, inclusivity and fairness. And to be honest with you, I find this to be hilarious and it should be called out. Now, I had Technicals on my podcast not too long ago, and the reason that I'm doing this video is really, like I said in the podcast, I think Technicals is the most important fighting game content creator that we have. I know he's not solely for fighting games, and at some point he will move away and just do gaming in general or whatever he decides to do. But right now we've got him in this scene, and he has outed many pedophiles and abusive people. And so it's baffling to me when I go onto Twitter and I see people hating on him, saying that he should be stoned, saying that he should be punched, and people for essentially calling for his life to be ended. Imagine that. A man that is outing people that are abusing children, and you want to end his life. What does that say about you? And I'll be completely honest with you. The community should rally around Technicals. Now, the reason that he is the vocal point of this is that in the lead up to Frosty Faustings, there were a lot of tweets that came out basically calling for this guy to be ended. And of course, Frosty Faustings put up this tweet with this picture. Now, I'll read the tweet out to you and you're probably going to find it hilarious. I found it hilarious given what I've seen being sent Technicals' way. And not just him, other content creators, but we're going to focus on him today. In the FGC, we're more than competitors. We're family. We fight, grind and support each other through every victory and defeat. It's the bonds we build, the shared passion and the mutual respect that turn a game into a community. Thanks to every single one of you who joined at Frosty Fall since 2025. What's a load of bullshit? The fighting game community used to feel like a family. It used to feel like a community. There were people that had differences with each other, and there are people that I have differences with now. But I would not ban them from tournaments because they don't think the way I do, because they don't lean the way I lean politically, and because maybe we got into a fight, a war of words on Twitter. I would not ban them. The community is for everyone unless you're literally breaking the law, which is funny because a lot of the people that are annoyed at Technicals and a lot of people that have said things about him have literally broken the law in the worst way. It's not a family anymore. It's a cesspool. It's a cesspool of degeneracy, and for whatever reason, these people are being protected. Now, in case you hadn't realized, if you hadn't heard it in my voice, if you haven't been on this channel before, I'm not in the US, I'm in the UK. And in the UK, we have problems. I don't know if we've ever had problems to the extent that they have in North America. And I know that Japan and Korea don't really have these problems either, so I've been told. We have more cliquey problems like high school drama sort of bullshit, but we don't have issues like this. But as somebody in the fighting game community, as somebody with a predominantly American audience, about 80% of my audience is American, I feel the need to say something about this. I also feel the need to say something about it because it shouldn't be one man that is doing investigations and having to call these people out. Now, nobody's going to do it as thoroughly as Technicals. None of the videos are going to be as entertaining as his, but like I said, I think we should rally around him because it shouldn't just be one guy doing all the heavy lifting. Nobody should want these pedophiles and these weirdos in this scene. And that is what this topic of conversation is going to be around, amongst some other things, so bear with me. So Technicals tweet out saying, Frosty Faustings is hiding replies in their pinned tweet that mention how they didn't ban the people inciting violence against me after I DM'd them months in advance and their entire threads were flooded with the topic. They've banned people for conduct outside of tournaments before, so why would threats be acceptable by their standards? It's either it is or it isn't against your code of conduct, and you're setting quite the poor example here. I've still received 0 responses from anyone on their team. No one is buying this safe and inclusive narrative when you have some of the most vitriolic and violent individuals being allowed to run unchecked because the organizers clearly agree with their actions. Won't stop until it starts affecting their bottom line and sponsors. Now, my advice to everybody that knows that tournament organizers or people that, operate in these scenes that have any level of power, if you know that they are protecting these people that are sending death threats to people in our community like Technicals, what I would would say is don't go to these tournaments, don't support them. Now, the only problem with that is that this problem might be more widespread than we think. And it might be all well and good to not go to these tournaments, but if that picture they've taken is majority full of people that are against technicals and in support of people that want to harm him, then we have a real problem on our hands, because simply boycotting tournaments isn't going to work anymore. Now, I wouldn't be caught dead in a place like Frosty Faustings in its current state, but me not being there, or other content creators or Tekken players or Guilty Gear or Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat not being there doesn't really make a difference if the scene is being overrun by degenerates. Now, if you went to Frosty Faustings and you're not a degenerate, then you shouldn't be taking this personally. But there is unfortunately a big problem here, because Technicals is hated for outing people doing terrible things. We recently saw a story about a Smash player that had an underage Asian girl in his hotel room. We've heard about stories of abuse in the Guilty Gear scene in hotel rooms. We've seen people lying about sexual assault to damn somebody's name in this scene. And somebody like Technicals is calling these things out and he's being hated for it. Don't you find that weird? Don't you think that's a bit bizarre? Why would you hate somebody for doing that? And you know what they always say, the excuse that they pull out of their asses? Oh, he's not part of our scene, he's just grifting for views. Why the hell do you care about how many views he's getting, how much money he's making, if what he's saying is true? Who cares? I don't care if Technicals makes millions from what he's doing. Couldn't care less. What we should care about is he telling the truth? And are there predators in the scene? And the answer is yes. So if you stand against the kind of work that he's doing to try and fix this scene, you're an idiot, and I want you to know that. Here's Technicals again saying, one of your family members said I should have my head split open. I told you about it, then nothing happened. Nice zero tolerance policy for inciting violence. And obviously on the screen you can see there that Technicals did reach out to them and let them know that they are essentially advocating for him to be taken out. And there's no response. There's nothing. Do you think his life is worth less because he calls out people doing terrible things? Does he need to belong to a scene to be able to point out when people are doing things wrong? If he's literally telling the truth, it's like a police officer showing up in a state that he doesn't belong to and catching somebody doing something wrong, and someone says, hey man, you don't belong in this state. Who gives a fuck? They were doing something wrong. I don't care what state he's from. Is he telling the truth? This shit is even more insane in hindsight, because I was entirely vindicated on the Guilty Gear story. These people just chimped out on me for no reason. If I played that I'm a marginalized creator who deals with racism every day and now I'm getting death threats card, maybe they do their job and actually be consistent. And then you can see in the picture there regarding Luna, after carefully reviewing several pieces of evidence and testimony from multiple individuals, we have come to the decision to ban the player known as Luna from attending future Frosty Faustings events until further notice, for violating our code of conduct due to repeat instances of hate speech, harassment, transphobia, among other offences. So they're very quick to jump on those things, but people calling for Technicals to be stoned, that's fine. So what you guys are essentially saying is that you're fine with a black man being stoned. Is that what you're saying? Is that what I'm getting from this? Why are these people not being banned? Why is there not action being taken against these people? These tournament organizers, or whoever's in charge of these tournaments, need to be held to task. You can't be banning people left, right, and center for their religious views, because maybe they don't want to get vaccinated, because maybe they voted for a certain person. You want to ban them, but it's fine if they incite violence. It's all good with us. It's just words on the internet. Just another thing I find really funny. James MK put out a tweet about guns in tournaments and maybe you should strap up and be safe. And people got pissed about that. But what I don't understand is, why are you getting pissed about that? Isn't it just words on the internet? You're the same people saying these are just words on the internet, right? But when it's him, because you don't like how he leans, because you don't like how he talks, now you got something to say about it. Now you got something to say, oh, look at this crazy guy. But when it's people saying things about Technicals, oh, we're going to stone this guy. We're going to stone this black man. Essentially, nothing. Radio silence. Can't even respond to a DM. Either you can't read, which would be par for the course because you're stupid at this point, or you're just ignoring the guy. And here you can see the hidden replies. Mutual respect, I wish. You guys don't care. We hear you loud and clear. You people are so full of shit. The FGC has become a pedo-filled, mentally ill shitfest. Damn, the people have spoken. Sooner or later, the FGC will have to acknowledge the other side of the coin. People are getting tired of double standards. Got another screenshot here saying, what about the people that advocate for taking out the YouTuber Technicals? Someone replied saying, free tickets to Frosties, hopefully. Cringe double standard, free entry for life. Like, these are very, very unhinged people. Very, very unhinged people. Again, I want to reiterate, his work on his YouTube channel is outing people doing bad things, but The only thing you care about is how much money he's making and if he belongs to your community. Do you not understand how short-sighted that is? And then the other one, the other popular one they like using is, oh, he doesn't care about the victims. I think it's you guys that don't care about the victims. That's why you're not talking about it. He's going out of his way to out it. It's much more than I can say for the rest of you. Now, obviously, Vicky Viper is one of the people that was apparently being less than kind towards technicals. And someone said, I guess it bears asking, will Vicky Viper be banned for actively threatening to harm another player's life? And then some galaxy brain underneath it said, someone should actively harm you. This is baffling to me. I'd love to sit down with these people and say to them, how can you want to hurt somebody that is saving people that have been hurt from the very people you associate with? And the FGC is responding. Now, like I said, I've got people in the FGC that I don't get on with, but I think we can all agree that this is some bullshit. Funny when it's against them, it's a hate crime, but when it's against us, it's just another Tuesday. This community needs to look up double standards in the dictionary. It's fucking gross and we're tired of y'all sweeping it under the rug. I'll never forget that you guys had people show Vax records from the bottom of my heart to the top of my lungs. Fuck all of you scumbags. A sea of pedophiles. I was going to hold my tongue, but screw it. Y'all have some hypocrisy in your midst to even fathom calling yourself a family. When you have people threatening violence to people being banned for anything other than left viewpoints, there's a lot that leaves to be desired. I don't know about family when there are constant threats, pedophilia allegations, and more in the FGC community. The hidden replies say otherwise. We're family, unless you have the wrong views or say something bad about a protected class or bother our elite or interact with our exiles or call out any of the degenerate things you see at our events, or if you just happen to bump into the wrong tier, you know, family stuff. Now, I do want to reference that because that kind of ties into something that happened with me. I went into a space with some content creators or fighting game players that have been cancelled by the scene. People don't agree with their viewpoints, and there's a lot of viewpoints that I guess I would disagree with them as well, but I think communicating with people is the best course forward. Now, after speaking to these guys, I was screenshotted and put on Twitter to basically make out like, oh, I'm in there and these are my boys and blah blah, the way people were talking. Now I went out of my way to clarify because I wanted to clarify and let people know that no, I was in there basically arguing against them. Now, it's not to say they did anything against me. They weren't rude to me. Obviously, we had a fallout afterwards. That's neither here nor there. I don't really care about that, to be honest with you. What I do care about and what I have to stress is that even though I went out of my way to explain what was going on, because I've got no problem talking to people on both sides of the aisle, people need to understand that I will interact with these guys. I will talk to these guys that people don't like, that they think shouldn't be in the scene, think that they have bad ideas, because I think communication is the best course of action. At the end of the day, if you're in a community, you need to speak to people. You can't just pick and choose who you're going to exile, which is even worse when it's just the way they think. They're not actually touching anybody or calling for harm. That is more than I can say than a lot of people that are still allowed to go to these events. Yes, a family full of mentally ill people with miserable lives that's out here getting innocent people banned from the FGC for nothing, but allowed them peons to send death threats to everyone. Yeah, the FGC is doomed indeed, and they can all rot in hell at this point. You've got a really weird one here. I don't know why you would write this. I don't know if he's like taking the piss out of them or if he's like saying that Technicals deserves this, but he wrote, Technicals gotta perish for shit like this, man. I don't know if he's like joking because of all the quote retweets or if he's genuinely calling for that. But if he is calling from that, then the guy's unhinged. Like, calling for someone to essentially pass away because you don't like how they're talking and because the work they're doing is outing people is batshit crazy. It's insane that the FGC has gotten to this point. And Chris G put out this tweet and he said, the sea is missing now. I rarely hear of anyone doing anything anymore. No more exciting stories, no salty sweets, no late night trash talking at bars. People barely even eat with each other. It's weird. Yeah, it is weird. It is extremely weird. The fighting game community is nothing like it used to be. It's not even like that in the UK anymore. Now, we're not dealing with this bullshit, like I said. It's very cliquey down here. People have their own little groups. People bitch about each other. But the pedophilia stuff and the abuse, I haven't heard too much about it. I've heard abusive stories here and there coming from Comic-Con or whatever, but not at actual FGC events. But even then, yeah, the community aspect of it has really just gone to the wayside. And there's probably multiple reasons for that. I'm sure COVID didn't help the situation, but I don't think esports did either. I think people became too interested in getting their bag and gatekeeping. I think people became too interested in painting themselves in a certain light so that sponsors could like them or they could be invited in certain places. Now, I've never cared about that stuff. I just like fighting games, and I've gotten the chance to meet a lot of nice people along the way, and especially last year and this year, got to meet a lot of cool people. But I'm not interested in pandering to anyone. I really couldn't give a fuck about who I upset. I'm just telling you how I feel about the situation, and you know, someone that's been in the scene for a long time, it has transformed, and it has transformed for the worse. This scene, this fighting game community, if you can even use that word anymore, is almost unrecognizable. Now, the other day I was sitting on Twitter and I saw these tweets from an individual called Emma Catherine. I was very confused at what I was reading. I was very interested because she was saying a lot of things that I was like, okay, you know, has this person come from the outside in? Are they trying to call out people in the scene that need to be called out? So I read her tweets. I was reading over them. I started looking into her work. And one of the first tweets she put out was, who's ready to talk about the gaming community and how many pedophiles, perverts, and predators are hiding behind their screens preying on children and young adults? Or how pornography has laced its dirty fingers into the gaming scene? Or how many video games are used on children in MK Ultra behavioral modification programs? More on this topic coming soon. Now, I don't really know much about MK Ultra. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I understand the ins and outs. I've heard of it, I've read up on it, but I'm going to leave that to Emma because she sounds way more tuned into that sort of stuff. But the rest of the tweet there, it caught my attention. Now, I DM'd Emma, I spoke to her, we spoke for like maybe 30 minutes, and I basically said to her that, look, that sort of tweet is going to get you a lot of pushback. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to be against you because, like you said, unfortunately, it seems like we're housing pedophiles. I can't believe I'm even saying that out loud in the fighting game community. But I did say to her, like, you have my support. If you've come in here to help remove these people from the scene, to out these people, then you have my support. If you ever want anything or need anything from me, I'm here. And I told her you can come on here. She said she's happy to, so we'll probably have her on here at some point. And at some point, I'll probably appear on her podcast. At the end of the day, guys, we are here to push buttons. The fact that it has gotten to the point where I'm speaking to people that go to these tournaments and they're saying to me, yeah, Mike, they set up orgies, they set up these little like drug dens where everyone's getting off and everyone's getting high, and I'm just like, what? I remember the FGC where you would go and play games and you'd go get some food and have a drink and have a laugh, and that's it. Now we're setting up orgies. Now we're setting up times to get high with each other in hotel rooms on all sorts of substances. And I'm not talking about weed here, okay? Let's just make that clear. There are other things that people have brought forward to me, and it's disgusting. It's especially alarming in Smash, since Smash is catered towards children, and children will want to go to these tournaments. Now, I've spoken to Technicals, I've spoken to James FK, I've even spoken to people in the Smash scene that I'm not going to name because they don't want to be outed, that have told me that there are kids running around, sometimes unsupervised, which is absolutely insane to me, and I actually have to call the parents out if I ever saw one of them. Don't take your kids to a Smash tournament, and if you do, don't leave them on their own. But the fact that these things are happening in these tournaments when there are children there is insane to me. You want to talk about a code of conduct, team? You want to talk about keeping people safe? How about keeping children away from these tournaments? Because clearly they are no longer for children. Now, I do want to reference a Smash tournament that I saw Dalton talking about. Now, you guys obviously know me and Dalton don't see eye to eye, but at the end of the day, if something is happening and it's true and it's being put out there, I don't really care who is saying it. So I pulled these tweets and I want to go over them with you guys. And there's actually a video. Now, I don't know how much of the video I can play without getting a strike from these people because they're probably not going to like what I'm saying. Probably won't play the video. There's a lot of satanic, weird messaging in it. And I'm not one of those like prudish people that doesn't think you can't be artsy with things. But I did watch this and think to myself, Smash tournament, kind of catered towards kids. These guys are doing really weird shit. Anyway, let's go over the tweets and I'll catch you guys up on what's going on. So Dalton tweeted out saying, in 2022, the professional Super Smash Bros. Esports community ran a major tournament called Hellbreak, which was an event themed around Satanism. The Smash community is also heavily known for their scandals of professional players having sexual relations with minors. Made me sick to say that out loud. The theme of the tournament was centered around the guy in their mascot costume dying and being resurrected by Satan. Their tournament trailer is littered with satanic imagery. Now, like I said, unfortunately, this trailer is actually riddled with satanic messages. It's a very odd looking trailer. I'm not going to play it just in case because it's got music in it. I think it's got people in it. It's a very bizarre trailer to set up for a Smash community. Now, what I would advise is going to Emma Catherine's page and looking through the quote retweets where you'll find Dalton posting that information. And like I said, here on this channel, we don't agree with some of the things that Dalton said, but at the end of the day, if that information is true, I don't care who it's coming from. I need to stress that because some people, they won't like somebody and they'll see them posting things and they're like, I'm not going to listen to him because it's coming from him. I don't operate like that. If it's true and it happened, doesn't matter where it came from as far as I'm concerned. I cannot like the person that posted it and still speak about it objectively. And objectively speaking, this is sick and twisted and extremely bizarre, and no wonder Nintendo does not want to sponsor these tournaments. I wouldn't want to sponsor them if I was Nintendo. I wouldn't want to be anywhere near these people. If you go to the event page, you can read about the tournament. We will summon the one and only son from hell below. This is not a funeral, it is a resurrection. They also encourage event attendees and competitors to wear dark, goth, emo, and satanic clothing. And then it reads, Balki is dead. I guess that's the mascot. Gone but not forgotten. Following his imprisonment and subsequent acquittal, Balki's lifeless corpse was found in his single apartment on the morning of October 13th, 2022. The cause of death has been confirmed as a homicide, and though no suspects have been made public by the authorities, those that follow Balki and his legacy, Grey Antics, are fairly sure who it was that pulled the trigger. But now is not the time to mourn, nor is it the time for revenge yet. Instead, we gather to celebrate life anew. We will summon the one and only son from hell below, and he will bring us the jammers that were promised. The very first Alt Project M Plus major. Whether you are into goth, emo, punk, pop punk, or metal, feel free to rock your darkest clothes, for this is not a funeral, it is a resurrection. This event is not associated with Beyond the Summit main stage. They should have put there that this event is not related to Sanity, because what the fuck. The tournament events were titled Hell's Singles Pit for the 1v1 tournament and Die With Your Friend for the 2v2 tournament. As a reminder, this is for the game Super Smash Bros, which is a game targeted towards children where Mario can beat up characters like Pikachu. I've got to say, it's really alarming to see how the FGC and the Smash scene has just taken a monumental nosedive. It's really weird. I think it's sick, and I would encourage the community to support people like Technicals. You want to talk about inclusivity, you want to talk about fairness, you want to talk about keeping people safe. Can you honestly sit there as a tournament organizer and see all the things that are going on here and know that Technicals might be in your venue and think that he's safe? Now maybe he's got balls of steel and he'll walk into the venue like he has before, but that's not the point here. The point here is the intentions of the people that are against him, and the point here is the mindset of the people that watch his videos outing predators, outing predators, and they get upset about it. Now, there are too many tweets to put up on the screen. Technicals has them all chronicled on his Twitter page if you want to go and follow him. They're all there. All of the abusive messages. When I had him on my podcast, we pulled some up of people saying they want to stone him. And since I've been on Twitter, and since I've been following the guy, I see them almost every week. It's absolutely ridiculous that tournament organizers are not being more firm about this. Yeah, what happened to the C in FGC? It died. Don't know what year it died, but it's gone. This is no longer a community. We have our sub-communities. You know, I've got my community here. You know, Technicals has his. You know, Tom Brady has his, or whoever it might be. But as a whole, as a collective, this place is a shit show. And until something is done about these people that are sitting at the top not speaking, not banning, not doing anything about these degenerates that have infested multiple communities, not just Guilty Gear and Smash, although they seem to be the most prevalent, then yeah, this community is going to continue to crumble. And the spotlight right now is on the fighting game community. Like I said, it's one thing to have disagreements, and there are plenty of people that have disagreements with here. I disagree with people all the time. People DM me, we get into it, and there's disagreements there. And some people don't even like the way I speak to them, and that's all fine, that's all well and good, because I don't like some of them. But I don't think they should be banned from tournaments for their religious beliefs, for their political beliefs, or for not wanting to show fucking vaccination records. Like, what the fuck are we doing in 2025? If you're wondering why I'm making this video as somebody that is sitting in the UK and not over in the US, it's because, like I said, a large majority of my audience is American, and the majority of content creators that I interact with are American. And as somebody that has supported Technical's work for a long time, as somebody that has had him on the podcast, as somebody that has interacted with him in private, and as somebody that calls these things out as well, although I don't go in as in depth as Technicals does, I think that I have some obligation as somebody with a subscriber count and a voice to talk up on this. For the last time, you don't need to agree with people politically. You don't have to agree with them socially. But as long as you're there to press buttons, that should be all it's about. But there is a double standard here. Now, if you're going to ban these players, you better start extending that ban list to the people in your camp. Because I can guarantee that picture you posted from Frosty Faustings, and there's a lot of people in that picture. I can guarantee you, based on the rhetoric surrounding that tournament and the allegations that keep on coming out about it, you might not have a tournament if you actually hold the same standard, if you don't perpetuate this double standard. But we'll see. We'll see how much your inclusivity and fairness and all of that extends to people that you don't agree with. It really shows your level of maturity when you don't agree with somebody, but because of that, you can't extend some basic sentiments towards them, like maybe protect them from harm. If we continue to pretend like everything is okay in this community, like there isn't a problem, like there isn't a sickness that is brewing from beneath us, then yeah, the fighting game community is going to collapse on itself. And maybe whatever comes out of that will be a good thing. But I'd rather we didn't get to the point where it's literally a split down the middle. I'm not calling on other content creators, I'm not pushing people to do something, but honestly speaking, in a situation like this, I'm not saying that if you don't do it, you're a bad person. Maybe you don't want to get involved. But as people that operate in the fighting game scene, I think we should rally around people like Technicals or other people that are trying to out these people and get them out of positions of power and get these people out of these tournaments. Abusive people and people that are messing with children have no business here at all. If you want to be a degenerate with your partner and do some degenerate shit, it's Valentine's Day today. I'm sure some of you have done some crazy shit with your partners. That's all consensual. You're adults. But clearly these people cross lines. They don't know boundaries and they don't have any respect. So I would call on other content creators to say something about this and hold these tournament organizers to task, because at the end of the day, they're enabling the behavior by letting these people in the venue.